How are you?
Good, good. I'm excited to meet with you today.
Likewise. A little nervous.
Yeah, well, it could be excitement.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about this you were saying it was something that you were talking about, whether it's like self. Let me see. I wrote a little note here. We were kind of having a conversation about self blame, and tell me a little bit about that self blame. Like, what does that mean?
So I didn't know I have it, but when it started to become conscious to me, I noticed that in any conflict with another person, there's a lot of tension in my head, in the back of my head. And then I think the narrative associated with it that I'm terrible. I did something horrible. Why did I do this? Or even if I didn't, the narrative in my head that I wasn't aware of is I'm blaming myself, and it feels terrible. It feels dark and tensiony, and I don't like it. So I'm aware of it, but I think it's like it's still a reaction.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I'm terrible, self blame. You said it's like it's just kind of darkness is what you see,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
kind of interesting because there's a higher positive intention behind every behavior or feeling that we have, and more often than not, like the behaviors, the feelings that we have, they either it's because it's the only way we know how to do it, if that makes sense, and um, we don't really know what we try to get to isn't working generally speaking, so there's some sort of program and something that's needs to get upgraded. So some behaviors we just have no, and feelings we have no clue why they're there or how we even got them. So we're going to do this chunking up technique, and what we're going to do is we're going to find the higher positive intention behind that behavior, because well, there's a couple things. There's a context where every behavior has positive value. There's it's really kind of interesting when it comes to human behavior, but if you take any behavior, certain contexts it wouldn't be inappropriate or it just wouldn't work out, or sometimes it'd be the best. But for this particular thing, it's a mismatch. So we're gonna find out what that is and give you some relief, and it won't be feeling that darkness
Uh,
at the end.
okay.
Cool, cool, cool. So first thing is I want you to do is I'm going to be asking you some questions, but I need you to go into peripheral vision or peripheral awareness. And so the best way to do that is so I'm going to ask your unconscious mind several questions, and basically you can just pick something. If you're looking at on the computer screen, you can just look something behind me, I guess, or something on the screen, or something in your room, whatever was easiest for you. It doesn't matter to me. And as long as you go into that peripheral vision and peripheral awareness, relaxing the muscles around your eyes and looking at that something in front of you for the next 90 seconds or so. Let me know when you picked something.
All right. Ready.
Okay. So you're looking at that thing, but then you're just relaxing the muscles around your eyes, and you're noticing also maybe in your peripheral vision, maybe it's a little bit blurry, but you can notice like the wall to the left and to the right as well.
Mm.
So, Haas, what's the first thing that comes to mind, the front of the screen of your mind, when I ask your unconscious mind, what is the deeper or the higher positive intention of that self blame, that self doubt, that darkness?
A desire to connect with the person in
Perfect.
front of me.
Awesome. And let me ask your unconscious mind, what's the higher positive tension of that? First thing.
Love and joy.
Love and joy.
Joy.
Joy. Okay. And then ask your unconscious mind, is there anything higher than joy? Is there anything right above that?
Um, I think that's it. Union, harmony.
Union and harmony?
Hmm.
Perfect. So we got originally there was the reaction, the feeling of that kind of like darkness and that self blame, right? And then when I asked, so there's kind of like 4 steps within this chain. So they ask your unconscious mind, what's the highest positive intention? You just really wanted to connect with that person. And then what's right above that connection, kind of the third part of the chain is like, I love and joy. And then the highest part is that union. So how does that feel?
At the moment, it feels good. It feels like a relief. I wonder if I get in another situation, will it get triggered again?
Okay. So then I'm going to switch to something else because yeah, let's do this. Okay, perfect. So we're going to pivot then. So we're going to keep it there, but we're going to use that first part and we're going to use it for the second part too as well. So let's do this. Does your unconscious mind know? Or now
should I still be doing the peripheral?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I won't stop until you tell me.
No, you're good. Okay, sounds good. Perfect. So it's just stay. Well, anytime you're not in peripheral awareness, it literally won't work. Like NLP won't work. Unconscious mind communication won't work, and you can. I start with people, picking one thing and then looking to the left or to the right. I'm in peripheral awareness the whole time. And that's just a skill set that it needs to get developed. So,
right.
Perfect, awesome. So while you're looking in peripheral awareness, ask your unconscious mind: does it now realize consciously that behavior of that kind of self-doubt is in direct conflict with its higher positive intention of union?
Yes, it's in conflict.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So while you're remaining in peripheral vision and peripheral awareness, I'm just going to share that there have been times when you've been resourceful and creative, whether you knew it or not. Your unconscious mind has within it everything you've ever experienced. For example, like where your keys are right now, or the information of like your social security number. That's right. Go ahead and ask your unconscious mind to search through all of your memories and generate at least 3 to 5 alternative behaviors which will completely satisfy the needs of your higher intention. Very good.
When I'm in a conflict, an alternate behavior would be to respond in a conversational way instead of shutting down and running away.
Okay, so shutting down and running away was the preset, almost like you get a used car and then there's preset radio stations on the dials and you can't change them, but now we can actually change them, right? So that was the preset. Now you can do conversational. You can just flow in that conversation. That's one option. What are 2, 3, or 4 more? Because we want to teach choice, never take it away. We want to give you more choices, and you could freeze, you could shut down. That's an option, but it's not the only option right now. And when the unconscious mind is consciously aware of more options, it will take the one that's more ecological with your total being. So what else? What are some other alternatives?
An alternative behavior in a conflict is to express my intention of wanting resolution. However, I think X, Y, Z. And this way I'm not coming off as adversarial, yet setting the boundary and expressing myself honestly and authentic.
Very good. So you can just kind of have a conversation and flow. You can also just express your intentions and your needs. What else? At least one more.
One more is not so resourceful, is to express anger and just destroy.
And if you continue to do that, what would that do for the relationship and the union?
That will create a snowball effect of destruction, and there will not be union or harmony.
Can you ask for that union and harmony to multiply itself from where it's at and go around and go inside of the part that wants to destroy and is expressing anger? Because it's simply anger only happens in human beings when we don't get our needs met. That's all anger is, actually. It's just it's the body's check engine light that says I'm not getting my needs met. So if this union and this harmony can surround and go inside of this part that is expressing anger and actually give it its needs met on an unconscious automatic level, number one, how would that feel?
That would feel amazing if that harmony goes around the anger and in between it, like release it, loosen it up. The anger is not as intense and persistent. It's relaxed.
Very good. So with that part of you getting its needs met, what is at least have your unconscious mind come up with one more alternative behavior response that you could do in those situations of conflict?
I can say, I see you're frustrated. I will come back to talk to you when you're more calmed down, or let me know when I feel like this would not work well with certain people. But
I have a suggestion for you.
Mm,
So if you're open to hearing it, I can share.
would love to.
So so there was some sort of conflict, and conflict is when two or more people are just not in alignment. It's just they're not seen from the same point of view. It might be contrasting, which isn't necessarily good, bad, or right or wrong. It's just not necessarily comfortable, and it can lead to damage, of course, in relationships. But the part of you that didn't it's kind of like your Hulk, or your when I grew up, there was this cartoon, I think it was the Flintstones, and there was this guy named Bam Bam, and he just smacked everything with his wooden club. Bam 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 Bam. And that's kind of like what anger sometimes does. It's just like, I don't like it, let me just smack it. But when that part gets its needs met, then it doesn't have the same response, or we don't attract or draw in the same kind of experiences. So, if somebody is maybe expressing frustration or anger, you could do one of two things. From a internal way or internal level, you could ask your higher self, or you can ask that union, or you can ask that divine presence to completely go in between you and, well, first surround you and go inside of you, but second, go in between you and the other person. Third, go surround them and go inside of them and help them get what their needs are getting met. They're not getting met, so ask that divine presence, just please meet their needs.
I feel like they have to be in peripheral awareness.
Correct, but I've taught literally thousands of people about peripheral awareness. And one thing I know about peripheral awareness, and who my teachers that taught me, they were in peripheral awareness before they could teach peripheral awareness. And there's something with rapport and leadership, and this could be unconscious leadership, but if you were in peripheral awareness first and then you were in rapport with somebody, you could pace and lead them into it. So you could show by example, and then they could follow, because it's like, well, you're in a calm, resourceful place, and even if they're not consciously aware of it, they can unconsciously still do it. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting. Can you tell me, what does peripheral awareness do?
Peripheral awareness, so there's peripheral awareness can go with 6 things. I generally start with peripheral vision. Peripheral awareness includes peripheral vision, peripheral hearing, peripheral feeling, smelling, tasting. It just kind of gets interesting when we talk about peripheral tasting, but that's the thing. But then peripheral sensing too. So it's your energy. So it's the non-physical sense. So I usually use peripheral awareness, which I allow the unconscious mind then to choose what it best sees fit. Because some people might go into peripheral awareness and they start listening on either side of their heads or to the sounds in the room. Some people will go into peripheral vision and they notice one thing that's easy to anchor, which I always lead people visually, and then we can go to other modalities, but you can see while you're looking straight ahead the wall to your left or the wall to your right, or if you're ever looking at a computer screen, you can notice what's behind it. So peripheral vision is, instead of going into foveal vision, Foveal, which is the opposite of peripheral vision, it's basically like if you put your finger or your hands together like a telescope, like when you're a kid and you look far. That's what foveal vision is basically if you look through one eye through both holes of your hand, that's all you really are aware of. But peripheral awareness is removing that. Literally, you get almost like a 360 view, and it also physiologically switches from the sympathetic nervous system, the flight or fight or freeze, which you were in, to the parasympathetic nervous system, the automatic, the calm, the flow state. And so it goes from the conscious mind, limited, to the unconscious mind, more expansive. That's what peripheral vision and peripheral awareness does. And it's our natural state of being as a human being. Any human that has an issue or problem, they're not in peripheral vision, they're not in peripheral awareness. Peripheral awareness or peripheral vision, it's the doorway into the unconscious mind. That's number one. Number two, you have to be in peripheral vision or peripheral awareness, I should say, in order to connect with your higher consciousness. It's impossible for a person to connect to God by holding their breath for a long period of time. And I'm not talking about like Wim Hof breathing or something like that. I'm just talking about general holding breath and unconsciousness. And usually they're holding their breath and they're contracting with fear. So I'm talking about it's breathing, relaxing, and connects to higher consciousness too. So there's like secret doorways. One is peripheral awareness, which is conscious, unconscious mind. Somebody could say, sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. Some people can say, it's like the air and then the ocean, like above the water line and below the water line. Yeah. Is that a good answer?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So what are our three alternatives that we have right now?
The first alternative behavior in the event of a conflict is to continue the conversation in a non-adversarial way, as a normal conversation. The second alternative behavior is to assert my positive intention, which is to reach a resolution. And then after that, assert my opinion, my point of view. The third alternative is to take a pause and say, I see you seem uncomfortable, you seem tense. Is it okay to come back later to continue this conversation when you're more calm? But I also said that one, the other person may not respond if they're on a different frequency or different operating system.
And if you do, they can always reframe too. Feel free to try things. So it's like, hey, it looks like your posture looks like you're kind of a little upset. Do you mind if we talk a little bit later? What do you mean? Let's talk about it now. Okay. So it's like you can feel free to try strategies, but if the strategy fails in that moment, just reframe. Well, let's try this instead. Right. Oh, yeah, that works better,
Very cool. Right. Yeah, I don't have to escape if it didn't go right. I can try different strategies. And then, so that's a third, I think. A fourth, if I'm counting correctly, would be, instead of getting angry, I'll let this harmony come around the anger and in between the anger, and potentially in between me and the person, and potentially in me as well, in my heart, and potentially in the person as well. Yeah, I think we said 4. Should I come up with a 5th one?
You could. My suggestion would be it's just ask them, like, what do you need? From your heart, from a curious way, if there's a confrontation and if there's, let's say they're feeling angry, like, well, what do you need? Like, not like, how can I help you? Because that's just generally like, it's not about you. Like if you're having a hard time and I say, how can I help you? The unconscious mind's gonna not like that so much because it's like if it's a how can I help you, then it's about me, if that makes sense. But it's what do you need?
Right.
And it could be what do you need for me to hear from you? What do you need for me to say to you? What do you need? It's a really disarming one, but it has to come from the neo. It has to come from the heart and curiosity.
For some reason, the situation I'm imagining, it's either I'm not tapping into the neo, or that person, that what they need is something external, not something internal.
How do you know?
From their words and attitude, but on a higher level or on a deeper level, I know that this is not what they need. What they need is inner harmony that they're lacking, but they have such a thick exterior, in my perspective.
Got it. Does your unconscious mind feel that these alternatives are enough for the future? Or is there a need for one more?
A need for one more is to start gaining distance from that person, try to avoid them as much as I can. I think that's a legitimate boundary. There's a little bit of sadness with it because there's no resolution, there's no harmony, there's a boundary, but it's a second best option if there's no harmony.
Okay.
It's better than anger and it's better than being hurt.
Very good. And is the unconscious mind willing to take responsibility for implementing these other alternatives?
Yeah. My unconscious mind will try its best. And just because the old program has been running for so long, but it will try its best.
Does the unconscious mind need to make any other adjustments to ensure the success that this change and this transformation just happened, that you're totally integrated?
One more adjustment. That fear of being hurt, maybe it doesn't need to be there, because maybe it's an illusion that I will be hurt.
If the fear of hurt doesn't need to be there, where would be the best place for that fear to be now? According to your unconscious mind.
Where would that fear need to be? It would need to be potentially, it kind of like transforms from fear to a sense of sorriness or sadness that the person in front of me does not have the harmony in my perception. But if I do have the harmony, then there's no fear of being hurt. How can a person hurt me with their behavior? How can they hurt my emotions with their behavior? They
Correct.
can't.
And if you had that harmony surround and go inside of that mental picture, that perception of the other person, what would that do to that fear?
It may soften them a little bit, but I do feel in my solar plexus like tension of the place where the fear of hurt was. And even though it's relieved a little bit, I still feel a little bit of tension. So maybe that harmony can go around my solar plexus and within the fear of hurt.
Yeah, I would have that harmony completely surround every square inch of the room that you're in, but also go inside of every cell of your body, your being. Solar plexus, all the chakras, everything. All of you ultimately needs it.
Mm,
Seen and unseen, conscious and unconscious.
that's cool. Yeah, that feels good. Some parts are more resistant than others, but that feels good. They're becoming less resistant. But they're a little bit there.
And then harmony could, if it wanted to, also bring acceptance to the resistance. Because resistance alone isn't a problem, it's just the resistance of resistance causes the suffering. But if you had the unconscious mind or higher consciousness, download or instill acceptance into the resistance, you can just notice what happens automatically then.
Yeah, there's physiological change in my rib cage.
That's why with these transformations, these healings, these upgrades, with coaching sessions, I recommend, people sometimes go for a walk, sometimes take like an Epsom bath, maybe like a CBD bath bomb, Epsom bath salt, um, things like that sometimes. But just, yeah, because the things are shifting around because you remember the mind is stored in the entire body. A lot of people don't realize that. They think it's just in the head. The thoughts enter and go exit through the head, but the mind is actually stored in the entire body. That's why people can get a massage and release emotions, or even this, right? We're going to the root of some of these things and uprooting it in a very, just seems like with words, but it's in a way words is how it got in there, so words is how it's going to get out of there too. But we're bringing higher consciousness with there too to make it more, yeah, speed it up or make it more efficient, I should say. And yeah.
Usually I tremor whenever I feel a physical shift, an energy moving or releasing.
Yeah, it could be
I do
kundalini.
shaking. Mm. I think there's a lot of fear in my root chakra.
Fear of.
It's gonna sound silly, monsters.
Not silly to me. Monsters according to whom? What part of you?
Um, it's like danger and darkness and voices. What part of me? What part of me? I'm not sure. Physical danger?
Yeah, is there a physical danger?
Finance? Logically, there is none. But I think the fear in the unconscious mind or in the program is fear of danger, fear of lack of finances, fear of angry family members.
And what is this
Um,
younger? Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, fear of rejection, of stubbornness and rejection from family members, uncooperation.
And what does this part of you need to receive or release in order to feel whole and harmonious?
Mm. Um, I need to release that illusion because it's an illusion. It's not an actual fact. It's just a program. It's just a narrative that isn't serving me, that isn't real. For some reason, holding on to it without knowing.
Who or what is holding on to it?
Uh, my root chakra, my inner child, young me.
And what would happen if you asked for that like divine presence, like God's presence to come surround that part of you and go in between the younger you's hands, go inside of and in between the what it's holding on and what it's being holding on to?
Uh, that's a really cool thing. It looks right now like an epic battle, like the danger, the demons in the root chakra, like fighting this light, this kind, soft light that is surrounding them and trying to get in between. But the light is like smooth and soft and harmonious and persistent and caring going through. But they're fighting, fighting, fighting.
So if I ask for that light, because light can be that, but I don't know if you've ever heard of like Archangel Michael or seen Archangel Michael when he's stepping on the head of the demon. So light can also just cut off the head very quickly as well. Light can also contain these demons, like put golden light around these demons and actually contract it to make them super small so they're living in this tiny little world size of a marble.
Uh, I was feeling that potentially, if the light continues to surround them, they keep getting calmer and calmer, and they're getting worn out because the light is not being injured by their swords and they're swinging. And it's because I feel like if I contain them, they're still going to be there. And if I make them smaller, or
But
if the
you
light
can't
makes them
contain them though.
smaller, I can't.
But the divine can.
The divine can.
The divine can contain them. The divine can surround them. The divine can shrink them. The divine can open up a portal of source light that goes directly back to the source. And the divine can either escort them through or just have the portal go around them and close up. So they go back to the source.
Can the divine heal them?
Yes.
And And
You can also transmute
can I
them.
transmutate them?
Mm-hmm. And your next question was,
Okay.
can I?
Yeah, how can I transmutate them or heal them
You
with the
cannot.
divine? Okay.
The divine can. Anytime if you try to transmute or heal them, you inherit them. Any trying of that is the ego, and that's the only way that the ego is the only way that demons can act attached to a person. Whether it's addictions or fears or this or that, it can only come through the ego. And generally it only comes as young as possible, as vulnerable as possible, as unprotected spiritually, physically, in every way, shape, or form as possible. That's a part of its playbook.
So what can I do now?
Well, what's left over right now? If you check inside, what's there?
A lot of the tension in the root chakra is gone. There's just a little bit left.
My question for you is, a lot of things got transmuted back to the source. My question for you is, according to the divine, according to that golden light, is there any part of you that's not you, that was really part of them imposturing as you, that needs to be removed now?
As you were saying this sentence, the tension started to go away a little bit.
So just have that divine presence go through and capture and transmute and bring through a source portal anything that previously was holding on to the demons, the darkness that wasn't you, that can go to.
I feel good. Feel good now. Now that my root chakra is released and much of my solar plexus, there's still tension in the left side of my rib cage.
So ask your unconscious mind or the divine, and what's the first thing that comes up when I ask you, Haas, what is left over? First thing.
Danger.
Okay. Danger of what? Where's the threat?
Angry people. Angry family members.
Okay. Can you have your unconscious mind collect and organize all those angry family members and just put them out somewhere in front of you, far out in front of you, but also shrink them down to the size of like ants, like on a little ant stage? Because there's not really, bringing your family there. It's just your internal relationship or representation of them that's actually the problem. That's actually what you're really relating to.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I think with that visual, the tension kind of went like in the middle now, like a little bit here.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. How about how many of them are on that little tiny stage right now?
Oh, let's see. About 4 of them, or 5, 6 of them. Oh, look at that, 7 of them. Shrink more for the unconscious mind.
And then can you ask that divine presence to go between you and them now? And once that safety, protection, the distance between you and them are there because the divine presence is present, what is it that you want to say that you haven't said before now?
When you asked me, I wanted to say I love you.
You love your family members, but you don't necessarily love this internal representation of them. That's not them, even.
Yeah.
In a way, that have holding on to these internal representations, these mental images of them, is getting in between your relationship in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
So ask your unconscious mind or the divine, what are the deeper spiritual lessons that need to be taken away from, extracted, removed from these internal representations that are going to be going bye-bye in just a few short while, so that you can actually keep these lessons and learnings, but then have a more divine, connected, harmonious relationship moving forward.
Hold on to the good memories only.
Anything else?
Ah, I don't think so. There's a little tension in the back of my neck. That's it.
Is there anything else that your mind is stored unconsciously in the back of your neck that needs to be brought from inside outside and maybe shrunken down and put on that stage as well?
Abandonment.
Okay. Who abandoned what?
A family member abandoned me.
And then when a family member abandoned you, did you start to abandon yourself or felt abandoned from that divine presence?
Eventually.
Okay. Let's do one thing first. So if there's no other lessons from these images from your family that's on stage, you can just have that divine presence cut that cord, the energetic umbilical cord can attach for you to them. While simultaneously or sequentially, you can visualize and imagine kind of like a golden healing light or a white light swirling around the top of your head. And as that starts to just gently, calmly, that light, which you described in really good detail, starts to enter that little soft spot when you were a baby, the top of your head, and can go all the way down and completely fill up your entire body. And once your heart is completely filled with this golden white light, it can automatically go and shine in and through you out into that stage until those images that aren't reality and no longer serve you can just completely dissolve, completely heal, or transform in some sort of positive way. And you can use as much of this infinite healing light as you need, like, and want to now. And just let me know when that step is complete.
Right now, this white light, this harmonious energy is surrounding the back of my head. And it's kind of like what happened with the root chakras, like demons fighting with swords, trying to fight that light. And the light keeps surrounding them, and they're getting more calm and they're getting more soft.
The more they fight, the more they get exhausted. The more they're easier to transmute. But they won't gonna want to fight because they're exposed to the light. They don't fight necessarily if they're hiding in the shadows. But when we turn the light on, then they fight. Sometimes. Sometimes they give up right away, but sometimes they fight. But what are you gonna like? It's like trying to stab the sun. How does that work? Makes no sense. You can't add darkness to light, but you can add light to darkness. You can't empty your pockets and make the room darker. It's just that the inside of the pockets will not be exposed to the light.
So right now they kind of like flew away from the back of my head, like a bunch of birds fly outside of a tree.
Which also can be contained, so they don't go anywhere else, and they can just open up a source portal. You can just put it in God's hands, and God knows what to do with them. Might not make total sense to you now, but it will make total sense to your soul and to you more in the future that these are not your amigos. They might have told you to have compassion for them and all this stuff, but really they just need to go back to the source of everything, of light.
Right now the tension is around my eyes and a little bit in my brain, like up on the crown. Like the harmonious light.
Well, that's going on inside. What's left, if anything, on the stage?
So on the stage, the family members are on the stage, but uh, the the good memory, the good representation of them, the good memories only. The demons that were in my eyes, these devils that were fighting with swords and horns. They start to kind of like fly away too. And then I asked the divine light to take them through a portal.
Source portal of light, yep.
Source portal of light.
Because there can be many different portals and many different things. We're very specifically clear, like a source portal of light. Back to the source. Mm-hmm.
And then if I try to bring the attention to the crown here, still tension like deep in between my eyes.
You can just allow that light to go into every nook and cranny, especially for the places that it wasn't welcomed before, because light needs to be welcomed. Divide. Demons do not. Demons can just enter where there is no security. One metaphorical way to say it. It would just enter where people aren't looking. But light needs to be invited in. So you can invite the light into all the places where it previously wasn't, and ask it to like set up shop and take over.
Can I close my eyes and maintain peripheral awareness?
Yes, 100%. Sometimes that even speeds things up. Because you're still aware of what's going on inside, and then the sound of my voice and whatever else that's important to the unconscious mind.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And the light come in aggressively to take shock and remove these demons. Starting to leave.
Say that one more time, starting to.
Leave. Here.
Well, you can just like bring the divine in and say like they're not welcome at all. They never had permission. They like were squatters, so to speak. But now this is a head of light, body of light, life of light, soul of light, being of light, life of light, space of light, claiming the light. And anything that's not in alignment can go right back to the source of light.
Source of light. Oh. I think there isn't much tension left. I'm looking for tension, but I don't know if I'm being too picky right now. I feel tension in my hands.
Ask for that divine light or the hand of God to hold both hands. And put one hand on your heart center and one hand on the back of your heart center between your shoulder blades. And then you can also have one hand in the front of your head, your forehead, and it can have the divine can have one hand on that back of your head too, and either side of your face and your feet, and your knees and your elbows, shoulders, hips, tailbone, and crown.
Hmm. This is wonderful. Right tension. My solar plexus. Place. Plane. All right. My unconscious mind's telling me shame, shame, shame. Or maybe it's my conscious mind.
It's probably your unconscious mind because we're on a roll and we've been doing some money, awesome things, and so now this it knows that I can help you with this, so it's gonna say, "Hey, let's do this now too." So let's get into the shame. So shame of what?
of pleasure.
Okay.
I just felt expansive energy in my chest to the sides of my ribcage.
You feel expansive energy right now?
Yeah, like I went from one point to outside.
Got it. And what is this? Is the. I'll just be direct. Is the shame itself a demon itself,
Is
according
the
to the
shame
divine?
it's a demon?
I already know the answer,
Uh,
but I just want to
think so. Yes.
ask for that divine presence, for God to go in between you and that shame right now.
Ah, starting to leave, and divine presence is starting to take space.
That's great.
Instead,
Just ask for it to go in between, ask it to surround and protect you, to surround and contain it, to go inside and connect you, to go inside and transmute it. And you cannot do any of this other than just asking and allowing. Asking the divine, ask me. But it's not
Please,
you
divine.
doing it, it's the divine presence doing it for you.
Please, divine energy, remove these demons, transmute them, take them into the source portal of light.
Yep, and it's very important that it happens so it doesn't go into anybody else or other parts of you.
Tension between my shoulder blades.
You could ask for Archangel Michael to go behind you and have your back.
I need to learn about him.
He's an extremely strong protector, basically like God's right hand angel. And he is very much like showed a lot of times pictured as like stepping on the neck of a demon and slicing its head off. There's a time and place for rehabilitation. There's a time and place for healing, for upgrades. There's a time and place to cut off heads. This is one of the times that Archangel Michael just takes over, and the archangels can do what they seem fit or they see fit. They know what's best. But that's why it's just we're containing, bringing it right into the source.
That was nice. That was amazing.
Let's double check into that shame.
Let's double check.
Okay. Is there what percentage?
I wanted to be respectful of the time.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
What You're welcome. What percentage, if anything, is left of the shame? Could be zero. Could be some.
There's some tension in the rib cage, right in here.
And if you were to ask God to go in between every rib, inside of every rib, and the space surrounding it, what would that do to that tension?
Mm. Starting to soften. And demons are hiding inside.
Perfect. So send Archangel Michael. You can multiply on Archangel Michael too. You can give me 10 to 1. 10 Archangel Michaels to 1 demon. They can go after and find them all. They can't hide from light. Especially when light is welcomed and light is like, in a way, like demons, are metaphorically like an intruder, and then you have really strong protector, well-trained protector dogs. You just have to let them off their leashes. You just have to say, like, go, and the angels will find them. They're only things can only like demons can only hide if they're allowed to hide, and if somebody is untrained or doesn't know what to do. That's their jobs. I mean, that's their jobs. A demon's job is to attach to somebody's unawareness, their ignorance, their blindness, their ungodliness. Ungodliness doesn't always mean like evil. It could be ignorant. Could be underdeveloped, not yet learned. That's also can be ungodliness. Independent from source. That's also ungodliness. And you can ask for that divine light to go in to all of that.
And the shame has moved from my rib cage up to my head, and I'm trying to bring the divine light. I'm asking the divine light.
You can even ask the divine light to rearrange the letters of shame. Make sure all the letters are all different colors and change all different fonts and different sizes. So that
I would like to take these letters outside of my brain.
So that you can
Possible.
stack them on top of each other and then have like the hand of God just kind of like go through your head and do that outside of you.
And I ask divine light to take space in areas where I'm not aware that it doesn't have divine light.
Yeah, it'd be really extremely intelligent for you to do that. Go into the scene, go into the unseen. Divine light, go into the known, go into the unknown. Go into where I'm aware of, go into where I'm not aware of. Go into all I can think, and even beyond my thoughts and the mind itself. This, that, and in between. Neither and both. Go into all 5 of those. You can do 6 of them. You can say, divine light, go into this, go into that, go into in between, go into neither, go into both, go into whatever is left.
That's amazing. Mm. Mm.
What's going on inside right now?
And just the rowdy ocean is settling down, and then the parts that were not noticeable that they had tension are becoming more um, noticeable because the ocean is calming down and light is filling in. Do the demons always lose against Archangel? What was his name?
Michael?
Michael.
Well, that's a great question. The answer is yes and maybe. And the reason, the deciding factor is the person, the individual. There's this story of Native American grandfather and sitting with his grandson over a fire one time, and the grandfather was telling a story about these two wolves. There was a good wolf and an evil wolf, like a white and a black wolf. And he was kind of telling the grandson the story over this fireplace, sacred storytelling, and telling them the difference between them both. One is good, one's evil. One you have to invite in, one's gonna invite itself in. And one has your best intentions, it's pure light, love, here to help you learn, grow, and experience, do what you're here to do. The other one's going to try to block it. And basically, there only can be one winner. And he kind of left the story at that. And then the grandson was really eagerly anticipating, but who wins? Like, because they're fighting, right? But who wins?
Mm.
And then the grandfather says, whichever one you feed.
Mm.
And feeding, of course, went on to talk about is focus. That's really about it. It's just really feeding through focus. If you focus on the evil wolf, you'll get it stronger. If you focus on the divine wolf, you'll get it stronger. And that's a lot of ego dissolution. Is the ego needs to be bring your awareness there, but not focused on. You need to focus on the divine while becoming aware of the ego, which actually dissolves the ego. But it can be tricky because the ego can take over, but ego and demons are different things. Like demons come through the ego, they cannot come through the neo, cannot come through the true self. Only angels can. Angels cannot come through the ego. It can comfort the ego, it can calm down, but then when the ego is calm, the neo arises. When the ego is heightened, so to speak, then the neo is really quiet or in the background. So in my experience of working with thousands and thousands of people and helping clear I don't know, hundreds of thousands of demons from people, maybe more. The only time that it doesn't work, in my finger quotations, is if a person doesn't want it to work. If a person wants to hold on to it. If a person, because it's interesting, because the demons, if they come through trauma, they're going to try to multiply themselves. The more traumatic, they're going to multiply and try to grow. And when I say multiply, it depends on the situation. Sometimes when there's trauma, there's just like a one event. But if it's like somebody gets shattered, like a Thor's hammer in their timeline of trauma, then there can be like, let's say 16 pieces of shards. Well, yes, a person can be broken into multiple pieces for a traumatic event, and sometimes demons will, kind of like a wolves in sheep's clothes, it will say that it's one of those parts, let's just say, of the person, because nobody protected that person. The person didn't know how to protect themselves. It was unguarded, the best way to explain it. And then the person goes on, but it's super unconscious, it's super subtle, and then it goes on, but then, the demon will, it's kind of like, yeah, well, I've always been here. I've been here since this, and it will speak as the person. It will use the voice sometimes as the person. The only thing difference is if you bring the light close, vibrationally, you're going to tell, is it expansive or contractive? No demons are expansive, and no angels are contractive. And the neo cannot contract, it can only pull back, and the ego can contract, it can get bigger, can expand, but it's the only thing that can contract. Normally, it's if you keep digging deep enough, there's going to be some sort of contraction. But if you bring the light there, it's like a filter in a phone. It's like the brightness, or I can't remember the exact name for the filters like on a phone. But you bring contrast. There we go. So you bring a certain amount of light. There's just such contrast, and if it's contractive, it's not you. There is a time and place that we can feel scared, and it could be a part. But when it has to do with trauma, and this majority of the time, there's imposters. So if a person's ego were to say, because again, the same thing, whichever wolf you focus on, but do you focus on the neo, your true self, or the ego, the false self? Do you focus on the divine, which is the source? Do you focus on the opposite of that, which is the opposite of the source? Fraction, disconnected from the source. So that's why our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors are really, really important, and we're a work in progress. And we need to team up. Our environment is extremely important. What media, what words, what music, what goes into our headphones, our earphones are extremely important, more than any other time in human existence. And with these, that's just what's happening. It's just kind of like a bigger war happening that's coming to a head, and a conscious head. And that's why these demons are getting more aggressive, but then this light is more powerful, and it actually can remove it quicker in record time. And it's just, what does a person want to choose? The people are the common denominator. If all of humanity got together, casted out all the demons from the planet into a portal, they would no longer exist in this realm, this dimension, this way. But that directly goes to a level of consciousness or awareness. And if people are willing to do the work to self-confront with the divine, because that's the thing, is there's going to be light that's going to be shined on, and then there's going to be some ugliness that people are going to see. Every single person that starts to self-illuminate or become illuminated or go into luminous environments, they're going to see ugliness. And ugliness isn't a judgment. It means without God. That's all that it means. It means a part that has not yet been connected. That's part of our journey, which is totally acceptable, understandable. The problem or the issue that comes up for people is when people get that opportunity to illuminate, and then they say, nah, I'm good right now. they snooze it, but then it actually becomes harder later and becomes like what happens in the meantime, right? It's more work actually. And so that's why self-confrontation with the divine light is extremely important in a sacred and safe environment and in a team effort. So is it possible that head to head straight up like demons and angels that the angels lose? No. The only thing that is the deciding factor is the individual because it's the majority rules. If the person sides with the demons, then the demons will win that person for that time period. It could change, but if the person sides with the angels, let's just say, then the demons lose. But it's interesting because it kind of goes both ways. If a person sides with the demons, that person, then they have to work harder for the angels later. I mean, it's like doing drugs. Let's just say meth. I'm just making something up, but doing meth, then a person would have to work longer to get cleaner out of the system. But if they say no and they went to, let's just say light, they chose, let's just say like supplements or vitamins or working out or really good quality food, then the demons will still try with other parts that have weaknesses or have not yet been connected. But there's also a stronger nervous system, there's more resources, there's more conditioning. Because whatever we do more of, we get better at as a human being, no matter what that is. Could be laziness, it could be depression, it could be self mastery, it could be time and money freedom, it could be humility, authenticity, transparency, anything, you name it, you think of it, whatever you think about, really, we focus on, we get more. And that's why it's extremely important to learn, develop the art of thinking, which is out of infinite possible thoughts in this moment, would I choose this thought? If the answer is no, it's not thinking, it's mental activity, it's program running the show, or the unconscious mental antenna that's picking up from the collective consciousness, which is why it's so hard to do that, to have a lot of crazy negative self deprecating thoughts in nature, because trees don't have thoughts. There's consciousness, there's transmutation, or there's transmission, I should say, and transmutation. But trees don't have thoughts getting around more people. It's a lot of factors, but that's kind of a one way to answer if they ever lose, if the angels ever lose, and it's the majority rules for that individual, that context. And that's where my job is, to actually teach this, to facilitate it, but I cannot do it. I cannot make any choices for anybody. I can lead the horse to water, but I can't make it drink. I could facilitate light, but I can't, like I said, I can't make you out. No, nor do I want to. But my intention for you is to be fully illuminated, and it's a process, but it has to be after working with thousands of people and me wanting it more for people to want for themselves. I've done that before, which I'm sure you have for your family, which a lot of people watching are going to be in the same boat. You know, it's like being more of an empath. We're on team light. There's a certain point of our evolution where we disproportionately want healing, transformation. We want what we got, our blessings, to be shared with other people, but then it doesn't mean other people want that for themselves. And that's a painful lesson at first. But then that's part of evolution too. And it gets to even deeper. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with somebody not wanting light? Well, because I want it for them. Okay, but let's just double check. Is this part of you completely surrounded and filled up? There's nothing wrong with wanting it, but if there's any sort of suffering, then there's separation from God. And if God surrounds and goes into that separation from God, there is no separation from God, which means there is no suffering, which there might not be any wanting for somebody else how there used to be, because there's just now peace there. There's actually just now divine and transmission of divine grace and expansion, which is one of the best ways to be the change you wish to see in the world, or go first, or pace and lead, however you want to say that, and be a model Just go first, just be, and if the people that are going to receive it are going to receive it, but it's not about that, let's make sure that the ego is not trying to take over. I want to be illuminated so other people can be illuminated, so make me feel better. Well, that's okay as long as it's from the neo, but if they don't do it, would you still feel better? It's double checking in that conditional response or that conditional part. How does that land with you?
A lot of light is happening in different aspects of my unconscious mind as I'm listening to you. I'm going into memories, I'm going into the future, I'm going into many different areas. I'm playing around with asking Archangel Michael and divine light and harmony to go into places I don't recognize. They are needed there.
That's awesome.
Amazing. That's incredible.
I hope you don't have a lot of plans for tonight, because you're going to need to lay low and integrate, because it's not just originally well, I didn't know. Originally there's specific things I wanted to do as far as like techniques, which we did at the beginning, but then I went off into a full blown session, which is totally cool because we'll be able to share that with people. And sometimes when I work with people, just to give kind of behind the scenes, sometimes there's just setup work. It's after working with people for years, but like there's usually transformation in every session at the beginning, but that's kind of the bottom part of the pyramid of coaching that I've kind of created, where the bottom part of the pyramid is healing, the middle part of the pyramid is structure or building, top part of the pyramid is mastery. And so healing is it's a team sport, but it's not meant to be for the rest of life. And just once there's a certain amount of healing, then it's just really, it's about building your life. It's about setting you up in a system to fulfill your life's purpose at this time, in this space, in this time period. And so sometimes when I work with people, there's clients that have long-term clients for years, but then some sessions, there's not necessarily transformation, but there's strategies, or there's this or that. But sometimes there's boom, 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 one after another, and sometimes it like sinks the battleship, where if it's an hour session, maybe we make it to a half hour and they have to go lay down because it's so deep. And so that's like, ending early and you gotta go lay down right now, and they're like falling over because they need to integrate. That's one thing. The other one is just more strategies and always give growth work. But for you, for today, for this, there was a bunch. You've never had this much this quick in your whole life. And
yes,
you could, wouldn't happen if you couldn't. And there's no even repercussions. It's just, it's just for integration. It's basically almost like you got top-notch transcendental massage, and then afterwards you don't like go to a mosh pit after a massage. You just like relax, maybe you take a bath or something like that, but just lay low. Even if you're hanging out with friends or whatever, just lay low. Yeah, like if you were gonna go to a jiu-jitsu class tonight, probably not tonight.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning. Yeah, just a little integration time, because it was a big deal. It was a spiritual surgery in a way. And psychological, right. Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you so much. So thankful. So
yes,
appreciative.
Sir. Absolutely. And we'll check in maybe in a few days just to see how it is. I always like to check up, a few days or a week after, and hear about the integration, because it's all permanent and it's can't go backwards. But, and the unconscious mind is like, oh, okay, cool. Once the integration happens, it's like, okay, the whole Me Too comes up now. It's like, okay, now I want it too. Me too, help me out. That's which is, it's cute because it's the unconscious mind, but that's what happens and a lot of the time. So
Amazing.
I'm sure we'll do it again.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jeremiah.
Yes, sir. Great job, Haas. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Integrate, and we'll check in later. We'll do it again soon.
Okay. Sounds like a game plan.
All right. Great job, bud.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.